Okay, in this section, we're actually going to be finding the equations of the lines given some information. So writing linear equations given a point and a slope to begin with. If we're given a point and a slope, it says to write a linear equation given a slope, which we know is m, and a point that it passes through, which we're going to call x1, y1, to distinguish from x and y. You'll see in just a second. Then we're going to use what's called the point slope formula. Our point slope formula says that y minus y1 is equal to m parentheses x minus x1. So what we're going to do, we're going to take this formula, we're going to plug in an x1 and a y1, which will be our point. We're going to plug in an m, which is our slope. You're going to leave this y, leave this x, clean it up, and that's going to be the equation of that line. So example number one, we're looking for a line that passes through negative 1, 7 that has a slope of negative 4. So we take our formula, y minus y1 equals m parentheses x minus x1, which you notice is actually just the slope formula with the x minus x1 moved over. And we're going to plug in our x and our y. So we have y minus y1, which is 7, equals our slope, which is negative 4, x minus our x1, which is negative 1. Anytime you have a minus minus, make sure you make it a plus. Distributive property would be y minus 7 equals negative 4 times x, and negative 4 times positive 1. Last step, move the minus 7 over, and you have the equation y equals negative 4x plus 3. And you can check that. That would be the line that obviously has a slope of negative 4. You can plug in your x value of negative 1 to check. Negative 4 times negative 1 is 4. 4 plus 3 does, in fact, give you 7. So negative 1, 7 would be on that line. Next one, y minus y1 equals m parentheses x minus x1. Plug in your x1 and y1 in your slope. This would be xy, so that'd be y1 is negative 5. Your slope is 2/3. X minus your x1 is negative 6. Minus minuses, make sure to make them a plus. So you now have y plus 5 equals distributive property 2/3 times x and 2/3 times 6. Cross cancel, that'd be a 1 and a 2 would be a positive 4. Last step, move the 5 over by subtracting 5, and it gives you y equals 2/3 x minus 1. That would have a slope of 2/3, and again, you can plug in your point and check it. Okay, if you're ever given 2 points, it says to write a linear equation given 2 points, x1, y1, and x2, y2, we first use our slope formula, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And then we're going to follow that up with our point slope formula. Now, let me express this. It does not matter which point that you plug into this. Once you find your slope, you can plug in either point. So y minus y1 equals m parentheses x minus x1. So use your slope formula, follow it up with point slope. So let's work some equations or work some problems. Start out with your formula. You need a slope. So that's going to be y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, negative 3 minus negative 6. Minus minus is a plus. That's going to be 6 over negative 3, and 6 would be 3. 6 divided by 3 is 2. So there's your slope. Once you have your slope, you now have y minus y1 equals m parentheses x minus x1. Plug in the cleanest one. Plug in the simplest one. It doesn't matter. We'll plug in this one along with our m. So you now have y minus y1 equals m parentheses x minus x1 is negative 6. Minus minus is plus. Distributive property would be y minus 1 equals 2x plus 12. To get a minus 1, we're going to add 1, and you get y equals 2x plus 13. Now, if done correctly, both of these points should work. So if I take out my x and I put in a negative 6, I get negative 12 plus 13, which is 1. If I take out my x and I put in a negative 3, I get negative 6 plus 13, which is 7. That's a great way to check these. Number 4, slope y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Minus minuses on top and bottom, make them pluses. Gives you a 10 over negative 4. Positive divided by negative is a negative. 10 fourths reduces to 5 halves. We then take that slope with either one of the points. This is probably going to be the cleanest one. and you plug it into y minus y1 equals m parentheses x minus x1. That would be y minus y1 is -2. The slope is -5/2. X minus the x1 is also -2. Minus minuses make them pluses. You now have y plus 2 equals -5/2 times x. And -5/2 times 2. The 2's cancel and leaves you with -5. Last step, move the 2 over by subtracting. Gives you y equals -5/2 x minus 7. Number 5, your slope, y minus y, would be -8 minus -5 over x minus x would be 1 minus 10. Minus minus is a plus. -8 and 5 is a -3 over 1 minus 10 is -9. Negative divided by negative is a positive. 3 over 9 reduces to 1 over 3. So 1/3 is your slope. We now take that along with the cleanest one. It really doesn't matter. We'll use this one this time. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Y minus your y1 value is -8 equals the slope. X minus x1 is 1. Now this one might get a little ugly with some fractions. Minus minuses is plus, so that'd be y plus 8 equals 1/3 times x. And we got to do 1/3 times a -1 will be a -1/3. Last step, to move plus 8, I've got to subtract 8. So I've got to do, let's see, that's going to be -1/3 minus 8 over 1. I need a common denominator, so I'm going to multiply top and bottom by 3. So that'd be a 24 on top and a 3 on bottom. A -1 and a -24 gives me a -25 over 3. So therefore, my final answer, y equals 1/3 x minus 25/3. I also want to remind you that, again, this is slope-intercept form. So this is your slope, and this would be your y-intercept. That would be where your line would cross the y-axis. If you were asked for an x-intercept, again, from the last section, you can always plug in 0 for y, and you could solve that, and it would tell you the x-intercept. Next up, something fishy about this one. The slope, when you go to find it and you do y minus y, it gives you -3 minus -3. X minus x is -2 minus -8, but the top is the concerning part. -3 plus 3 is 0. The bottom really doesn't matter. 0 divided by anything is legal. This has a slope of 0. If you don't remember, horizontal lines have a slope of 0. The equation of a horizontal line is y equals some number, which would make this problem so much easier, but I'm going to go through the process. We now have y minus y1 equals m parentheses x minus x1. Take either point, I'll use this one, and we have y minus, your y1 would be -3, your m was 0, x minus your x1 is -2, minus minuses turn them into pluses. You now have y plus 3 equals 0 times anything is just 0. Let's move our 3 over and you get y equals -3. And I told you that a horizontal line will have the equation y equals a number, which it does. Well, look at your 2 points. Here's the easy way. Anytime you're dealing with a horizontal line or a vertical line, you can look for repeats. So in this case, notice both y values are -3. Then your equation is going to be y equals -3. What if your x value is repeated? What if your your 2 points were -3, 5, and -3, 7? Then the equation would be x equals -3, and you wouldn't have to go any further than that. Okay, now let's do some application problems. Number 7 says a cab ride costs $4 plus $1.75 a mile. A part says write an equation to represent the cab fare. So the ride cost, let's do C equals. The cost is equal to $4 plus $1.75 a mile. Let's start with $1.75 a mile. $1.75 per each mile that you drive. If you drive 1 mile, you'll pay $1.75 times 1. If you drive 2 miles, $1.75 times 2, and so forth. However, on top of that, you've got to pay an additional $4. The reason I wanted to write this first is to show you that $1.75, and I want to remind you that that's a rate. Slope is a rate. This is y equals mx plus b form, except for instead of y's and x's, I have c's and m's, but this is a slope. This is your y-intercept. So therefore, C is my cost, M is my miles, my slope is $1.75, which is the rate at which they're being charged. Clay's destination is 17 miles away. He has $30. Let's write down our equation again. C equals the cost is $1.75 a mile plus $4 additional dollars. So he has $30. He needs to go 17 miles. So let's plug in 17 for our miles. Pretty much, again, what we're doing is we're finding C of 17 if you want to use function notation. So $1.75 times 17 is $29.75 plus 4. So he's going to pay $29.75 for the mileage, plus the extra $4 will be $33.75 is what 17 miles is going to cost him. So he has 30. He will not make it. Okay, number 8 says the Joneses are purchasing a new home. Closing costs are $249, so that's regardless, plus 3% of. Okay, if you don't remember 3%, you've got to change that to a decimal. The word of means to multiply, so you have 3% of, or times. I hate to use X for times. So 3% of the purchase price. We'll let P be the purchase price. So the total, we'll do T for total closing cost, will be 3% of the purchase price plus another $249 in addition to that. Again, notice the rate there. The rate is a 3% rate. 3% of the, so that's the reason that your slope here is 3%. Plus, in addition to that, you're going to have to pay $249 regardless. So even if the purchase price was 0, 3% of 0 is 0, but the $249, that's your y-intercept. That's going to be your starting, your starting total value. So B part says the purchase price is $195,000. So we're finding T of $195,000. So the way we're going to do that, we're going to do 3% of the $195,000. We're plugging it in. And on top of that, we're going to add the other $249. 3% is going to be $5,850 plus the $249, which will give you a total of $6,099. That's going to be your total closing cost. So the sellers offer $5,000 in closing cost assistance. So how much will the Joneses have to pay? They'll have to pay the other $1,099 themselves. The next one says that a 22.5 ounce candle burns at a rate of 1 ounce every 5 hours. Write an equation to represent the amount of candle left. So the amount left, we'll call it A. We're going to start with a 22.5, and let's write this to where it makes more sense. We're going to go down. We're going to subtract off 1 ounce every 5 hours. So if it's 1 ounce every 5 hours, that means that we need 1 hour. For every 1 ounce, or for every 1 hour, if it's in 1 ounce for 5 hours, then 1/5 of an ounce would be for every 1 hour. So therefore, we got 1/5, that's going to be 0.2. So we're going to subtract off 0.2 ounces per hour. Now, if you don't like it written like that, it's actually the way that you're used to seeing it is negative 0.2 per hour and then plus 22.5. Now, what does this represent? That's how much you start. And then your rate, notice your slope there, you're going down 0.2 ounces per hour. So how many hours will the candle last? Okay, it's going to last until our amount is equal to 0. You have none left. So to figure out how long that'll last, again, we're going to take out our A value. We're going to put in 0, move the 22.5 over. It gives you 0.2H equals negative 22.5. To get rid of the negative 0.2, you're going to divide by it, and you're going to find out that your hours would be 112.5. So your candle would last 112.5 hours. Number 10. Josh bought 3 bags of potting soil, 10 bags of mulch at Home Depot. Write an equation to represent the total cost. Now, I don't know how much each of these cost, so I'm going to say that each bag of potting soil is going to cost P dollars. Each bag of mulch will cost M dollars. So if, let's say he bought 3 bags of potting soil, so we're going to have to multiply 3 times P to find out how much money he spent there. Plus, in addition, he bought 10 bags of mulch. So 3P plus 10M will equal the total cost. Now, what we're doing in these is we're actually showing you a use for standard form. This equation, this linear equation, is written in standard form. If Josh spent $40.91, that would be a total. And mulch costs $2.75, so that'd be your M. How much did the potting soil cost? So we've got our standard form. In the place of T, we're going to put $40.91 as the total. We're not sure how much the potting soil cost, but we know that the mulch is $2.75 a piece. So we're going to take out what we don't know, or what we do know, plug it in. We're going to find out now what we don't know. So $40.91 is equal to 3P plus, we can actually multiply this, that'd be $27.50. Subtract off the $27.50, and you're left with $13.41 is equal to 3P. And when you divide by 3, you find out that P is equal to $4.47. So that means each bag of potting soil would cost $4.47. Number 11, again, we're talking standard form here. Kinley has a collection of quarters and nickels. And we know that quarters, of course, are worth 25 cents. Nickels are worth 5 if we need that information. Write an equation, determine the total value. The total value will equal 25 times the number of quarters she has. We'll do Q's for quarters. So if she has 1 quarter, 25 times 1. 2 quarters, 25 times 2. Now, you've got to be careful because notice I did 25 instead of 0.25. So therefore, I'm doing it in terms of cents. So she has 1 quarter, she has 25 cents. Now, if you want to talk about the actual money value, we probably need to do a 0.25 here. Same thing with the nickels. Each nickel would be worth 0.05. So each nickel would be 0.05. So therefore, there's your total amount of money. So if it says she has $5.50, you notice that that is in dollars. So if we did that as 25 and 5 over here, we would have to done this as 550 cents. So 550 is equal to, she has 17 quarters, so 0.25 times 17, but we want to know how many nickels she has, so 0.05 times N. First thing we're going to do is we're going to do the 25 times 17, so 17 quarters. And that would be $4.25 plus 0.05 N. Subtract off that 4 1/4, and you're left with 1 1/4 is equal to 0.05 N. So that's going to be that you have 25 nickels. Okay, got a couple more. The baseball concession stand sells soft pretzels for $4.50 and bags of popcorn for $3 1/4. So we'll do a Z for pretzels, and we'll do a P for popcorn. So therefore, let's see, write an equation that represents the total sales. So total sales from pretzels and popcorn for the given day. The pretzels are $4.50 a piece, so $4.50 per pretzel. Plus, you're going to get $3 1/4 for each bag of popcorn. Again, we let P be the popcorn, Z be the pretzels. If this concession stand sold 137 pretzels, how many bags of popcorn does it need to make $1,000? So the total sales would be $1,000. We sold 137 pretzels, so we're going to do $4.50 times the 137 pretzels. Plus, we want to know how many bags of popcorn we would need to sell in order to get that $1,000. So the first thing, we've got to multiply this together. So that gives us 1,000 is equal to $4.50 times 137. And that would be $616.50 plus 3 1/4 P. Subtract off the 1650, and you get 383.50 is equal to 3 1/4 P. Divide both sides by 3 1/4, and you get P is equal to 118. However, let's read the question again to make sure we're answering it correctly. How many bags of popcorn would they need to sell to make at least? I want to point out the words at least there. So if they sell 118, they'll make 1,000. So the number of bags of popcorn they need to sell would have to be greater than or equal to 118 to sell at least 1,000, because at least 1,000 means they could sell 1,000 or more. So if they sell more bags of popcorn, obviously, then they would make more money off of them.